Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about the spiritual gift of Clairtangency, or the ability of clear touch. Welcome back to Wildfire and Earth. My name is Bradley. I am a psychic intuitive medium, a Reiki master healer, and shaman. Today, we're going to be talking about the spiritual gift of Clairtangency, or the ability of clear touch. Now, Clairtangency is very similar to Clairempathy in that it allows you to feel spiritual energies and different presences and even sensations through your skin. It doesn't just involve the hands, it actually involves your entire body, because as you know, your epidermis is one of the largest organs that you have as a human. And many of us have probably experienced the ability of Clairtangency and didn't even know it. So if you've ever walked into a room and you get the sensation of goosebumps, or you actually feel as if a presence or an entity touches your hair or touches your arm or does something similar to where you actually physically feel it, that is the ability of Clairtangency. That is so weird. It keeps moving in and out. Oh well. But Clairtangency goes back long into the history of psychic ability. Clairtangency was actually used in an ability called psychometry. Psychometry is the ability to touch an inanimate object and perceive events or people that were involved with that object. So basically what you were able to do with psychometry is you are able to touch a ring or a necklace or any other piece, like someone's clothing, different things like that, as long as someone's energy has been on it or around it, especially in an event, or if they love someone, or even if there has been violent history behind it or sad history, whether the energy be negative or positive, the psychic can actually pick up on that feeling and sensation through the ability of psychometry. And with a lot of my students of shamanism, I really like to emphasize this gift because I feel like it's a forgotten gift, and a lot of us don't even realize how often we use the ability of psychometry or psychometrics throughout our lives. And it just, we'll open the door, or we'll, put our hand on the doorknob to go into a house, and we ignore the sensations that come from that, or the feelings, or the tingle or something. And it's just because we're so caught up in everything else on day-to-day life that we forget that our body is constantly picking up signals and waves and frequencies from the outside world that are actually giving us messages about our environment, about possible spirits or entities that are around us at times. And it's like our brain just ignores that. It's one of those, there's a French word and I can't remember it. I'll think of it here in a second, but it is the opposite of déjà vu. Déjà vu is the feeling of you've seen this before. Well, let me look it up. I'll be right back. Alright, so I had to look that up because I am trying to teach you guys, so I want to be as accurate as possible. So the word is actually jamais vu, which means it's something that you see or you're familiar with, that you see every day, but all of a sudden you're experiencing it like you are experiencing it for the first time. So in order to be truly psychic and really work on your Clairtangency, you have to kind of approach the world with innocence and childlike abandon, because you're going to start perceiving things that are normally and ordinarily there. You just start picking up on them with these abilities. I think that is honestly what separates a psychic from a lot of normal people, or well, normal people. See, for me, psychic is normal. And I think it was my mother's teachings that she always taught me to look up, to stop and smell the roses. It's that mentality that allows you to pick up on subtle nuances within your environment and your surroundings that other people aren't picking up. It's taking a moment to breathe and actually feel what you are feeling. So clairtangency, how can you use it in your everyday life? Number one, with a lot of my Reiki students, Reiki is administered through energy through your hands. So that is actually a clairtangent ability because you're channeling energy through the power of touch. So what's really neat is our society lacks touch. There are actually people that are professional cuddlers now. We've gone so far past the where, before it was brothels and whorehouses, and now we actually have people in major cities because they are so disconnected from everyone, and yet we're all connected through the matrix. But that's a whole other point. It's synthetic. It doesn't give us that human interaction. There are actually people that are craving this desire of touch so bad that they will actually pay people to come and cuddle with them. If you want that, I'm totally up for grabs. No, I'm just kidding. I'd have to talk with my partner about that, but that would be an interesting thing. And I think that's what Reiki and how Reiki actually in part heals people is because it's actually someone taking the time to not only listen to your problems, but also touch you in a physical way and say, I'm here, I am supporting you in your healing, and I'm reminding you of how special and perfect you are. That's the beautiful gift of Reiki. So through Reiki, though, a lot of times you will perceive physical sensations through your hands, as in hot or cold, prickling, tingling feelings, different things like that. And you pick up things that you wouldn't normally know. A big success story that I like to share with my Reiki practice is I have a client that has Parkinson's disease, and she has tremors and uncontrollable shaking in her body. Well, she has this device that attaches to her brain, and then it goes down, and there's wires down her neck and then into her chest, and there's a little battery in her chest. When I was doing Reiki and reflexology on her, I kept getting the sensation that something was wrong. And her and I visited one another for about 2 months before she finally went to her doctor and said, listen, I feel like something is wrong, because she finally got on board because she was like, no, everything's fine. The surgery went well. Everything went fine. Come to find out, her doctor ran some tests and she had several infections going on in her apparatus that was helping her with Parkinson's, and she ended up actually having to have it removed and redone, and now she is happy and healthy and she's doing great, and I am so proud of her. And I wanted to thank her for letting me share her story as often as I do. If you want to read more about that, it's in my first book, The Fool's Journey, Raise the Vibe, Heal the Tribe, which is available on Amazon today, and you can read her full story and find out more about the healing power of Reiki. So to get back on track, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit more about how clairtangency can be used in your life. So that's how you can use it for touching. You can pick up things from objects, environments, and people. So when you hug someone, you can actually receive information through your physical sensations. Pay attention to what you're feeling. A lot of us walk around shielded and blocking all of those messages and different insights that we're getting from our clairtangent abilities. And what's beautiful is you actually have to practice that word, jamais vu, that ability to perceive something as if you are perceiving it for the first time. Because remember, many things happen in between the times when we see coworkers, when we see family members, when we see our spouses or our partners, or our friends, and all those other interpersonal relationships. So in between those times, life events happen, people pick up different energies, good and bad, and we need to participate actively in their life and not just take it for granted. And we need to understand that whenever we are in their life, it is up to the psychic to really be aware and perceive as if this is the first time we are interacting with this person. It doesn't mean forget their name. It doesn't mean forget everything that they've said to you. It just means put away your barriers and put away your preconceived notions and just let it be. I feel like that is a huge secret in the ability of using these spiritual gifts and understanding that constantly, every moment, there are different realities, different dimensions of living, and different levels of existence that are communicating on, like, minute by minute to us. And if you open up with this jamais vu ability of being able to perceive things as if you are first seeing them, you will pick up so much more sensations. I think that's the most important teaching that I can give you about these spiritual gifts, is that you have to approach it with a childlike innocence, okay? And I think that will unlock for so many people. Get out of your head and get into your heart. You know, it's that journey that takes a while to learn how to do, and you're gonna mess up, you're gonna make mistakes, and it's totally okay. That's the beautiful part about being psychic, is just because you don't pick up on the right thing, it doesn't mean that you missed the message. It just means that you're not interpreting the message correctly. So that's what comes with practice, is you have to keep at these gifts. I feel like so many people, my cats are going crazy. I feel like there are so many people that give up on these gifts because they try to explain it or they try to talk to someone about it, and they come off as wrong or incorrect, and that instantly, you know, shuts us down because we don't want to be perceived as stupid or ignorant, and we give up. If Thomas Edison gave up on the light bulb, we wouldn't have the light bulb today. And I know there's a little bit of historic discrepancy about that, but he tried over and over and over again. And it's not insanity to try different things over and over again. It's insanity whenever you keep doing the same thing and you keep coming up with the same conclusions. You have to change your conclusions and approach it differently. So that's that ability of jamais vu, of approaching something as if you've never seen this before, as if you don't know any preconceived notions, and you're coming in it new and fresh with a new enthusiasm for it. And that is where spirit can step in and bring in beautiful moments that are going to transform your life. Also, this ability of clairtangency allows you to feel with your hands different barriers and shields and environmental energy within buildings, around people, or around places. So what you can do is, if you really practice on this gift, the next time you're creating sacred space and you visualize the shield around yourself, or you visualize the circle, try to make it tangible, and then see if you can actually feel the difference in the air. It might be hot or cold, there might be resistance or less resistance. It might be something so subtle that you really have to really focus on it and let go of your preconceived notions about these Hollywood, you know, that you're gonna run into a shield and you're just gonna, you know, be a mime. It's not that. Energy is subtle. That's why they call our aura and a lot of the magical gifts happen in the subtle body. So this other layer of ourselves is perceiving a lot of these things that come out and interact and give signals and signs to our nervous system. So it's literally trickling down from a subtler place into a more physical sensation, so we can understand it. So you can actually feel whenever someone has wards up around their home or their offices and different things. I'm not saying that you're perceiving it because the ward is working and it's trying to keep you out. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can actually feel the differences. And a lot of the times whenever I walk through wards, I feel more protected than I did outside, in the environment. Whenever I live in an apartment now where there was a witch a couple of years ago that put a protective barrier around this entire building because it's very magical, and there's been a lot of interaction with spirits here and a lot of activity. So she put a bubble of protection around it, and whenever I moved here, I instantly felt it. It feels like you're walking into when you're outside and it's really stagnant and dead, and there's no wind, and it's humid, and the air is just oppressive. It's on you, and then you walk into an air-conditioned room and you can just that sensation of coolness and refreshing and openness. That's kind of the sensation that I had the moment I walked into this house. It's absolutely beautiful. And so that is the ability of clairtangency, to pick up through physical sensations on your skin and your epidermis and all of your different limbs, because sometimes you can get these sensations on your feet, especially if you are familiar with the term holy ground or sacred ground. Whenever you go visit some sacred native sites, or if you're getting to tour through Europe and there's different, the standing stones, the stone circles, and all those different ritual places where people have worshipped for hundreds to thousands of years, and there's an energy buildup or an energy surplus, you are going to tangibly feel it. And especially if you go to churches where there is a huge a huge community of people coming together to worship, you can tangibly feel the difference between inside the building and outside of the building. That's why we have the term sacred ground, because it is blessed and it is consecrated by people constantly reaffirming their connection to spirit and the divine source. And so those things change us, and we can actually feel the change in them. And I feel like in some way they can reactivate and alter our DNA so that we are able to perceive these environments and atmospheres a little bit easier. So how do you practice this gift? I have 2 exercises for you today. The first one is going to be good old-fashioned psychometry. What you're going to do is I want you to take or find some objects that you really don't know much about, possibly go to a flea market or even go to a crystal or rock shop that has crystals, because one of the beautiful gifts of psychometry is whenever you're picking out crystals and you can't quite decide the one that you want. Sometimes people hear things, sometimes people see a glow around the stone, but for me, I use my left hand and I kind of scan the entire batch of crystals or the entire batch of stones, and one of them will feel a warmth, or it'll feel a tap on my hand, or I'll feel other sensations that let me know it's in this area. So then you can pick a few of the stones up and set them out in a row, and then just move your hand over the one that you want to do, and the one that gives you the most sensation, that's the stone for you. That's how I have picked out my stones in the past. And what's even crazy is some of the stones that I have picked out that way didn't end up being my stones. They ended up being stones for clients later on down the road, 6 months to years down the road. So what's cool is I picked up a Shiva stone about 6 months ago, and I just recently had a client. She walked in, and during her Reiki session I was having her hold a couple of stones and different crystals on her to realign her energies, and she just had this connection with the Shiva stone. And the moment she said, "I love this stone," I just without even thinking, I just said, well, that's because it's yours. And it was. I was just the bridge for that crystal to get to where it needed to go. So that's also one thing that you need to remember with psychometry and psychic abilities and, picking out things, is that ability to be able to love something so much and love others so much that you can let go. It's not ownership, it's not control, it is letting things be as they are, where they need to go. Okay, because if I would have tried to hold on to that stone, my client would have missed that beautiful gift and opportunity to cultivate that relationship with the stone that she needs at the moment. You know what I mean? So it's beautiful that I was able to be the bridge for that stone. So you can do this, go to a rock shop or go to a flea market or antique store, and especially some place like a flea market or, that has different vendors and they're all there because they might know information about the item that you were going to practice with psychometry. You can even do this with some of your family's old stuff, and you can call your relatives and ask and see if your perceptions are correct. Make sure that you talk to someone who is open about these things. If you are in a flea market or someplace more like that, you might feel uncomfortable doing it, but you can do it subtly. So you can go and pick up the item. I recommend using your left hand because that is your receptive side of your body, and hold it in your hands and just close your eyes for a minute and see if you feel anything, if you get any visions or perceptions or something like that. And it could be something as simple as Civil War era, or this was used by a grandmother who loved her kids, or this was a father's special gift, or this was a child's first toy, etc., etc., different things. See what perceptions you pick up, and then talk to the vendor or the owner or someone who knows more about that. And instead of saying, hey, I think this belonged to such and such, you can actually use leading questions and just say, tell me about the history of this item. And then a lot of the times through that conversation, you can pick up things without actually outing yourself that you're trying to do psychic work, but confirm that your suspicions are correct and your messages are being received. Now, if you get it wrong, try to figure out what it was that was the disconnect. So say you got a Civil War era, but come to find out it was actually from World War I. Okay, so here's the deal. You got the time frame wrong, but that's okay. Spirit and time are a little tricky. You did get war. So that's one of the things that you need to learn to accept what you can pick up and let go of what you don't. So what is good for you and what is good for that item or the person you're talking to is that you picked up on what you could and what you could perceive. And the more and more you practice this, the more precise you are going to get. So try this with as many items and things as possible. Now, number 2 is going to be kind of a dual exercise. I want you to work with a partner, and I want you to be able to try to distinguish their aura. Now, this is going to take 2 people that kind of understand this concept of the aura and shielding and different things like that, and the etheric and subtle bodies. But I want your partner to really focus on their aura and see if they can expand it out so that it can be perceived and tangible, and it's easier for you to pick up. Because remember, where focus goes, energy flows. So when your partner is focusing on their aura, there's going to be more energy flowing to that auric body and subtle bodies, and you will be able to perceive it a little easier. So what you want to do is start about 2 feet away from the person, hold your hands up, and kind of move your hands back and forth around the person, and see until you feel almost like a pressure or a buzzing feeling or a warmth or cold or different things like that. Write down your perceptions and then talk to your partner about how they're feeling, how they felt or perceived their aura, how far out it was. if they had pushed it out further, you might even find that you have to walk further back. Depending on your partner, some people can make their auras really big. Some people like to have their auras very tight. It has to do with personalities and different issues in their past and experiences that allows them to be more open with their aura or be more closed. So you can pick up on that. And as you practice this, you will get better and better at perceiving the subtle changes and differences within people's auric bodies. And you can even take this further and do this with atmospheres or different your workplace, pick up on different energies going on there. And even just by placing your hand on someone, you can pick up different sensations and help understand where they are coming from better. That is what the spiritual gifts are for, whether it be clairtangency, clairvoyancy, clairempathy, or clairsentience. All of these abilities are there so that you can understand deeper into other people's experiences and even help them understand more about their life experience so that they can learn whatever lesson they are working on or whatever experience they need to experience. They can move on so that spirit can bring newness into them and they're able to shed those layers and let go of some of the baggage that they're carrying around. That is the beautiful gift of being psychic, is you allow people to understand themselves on a deeper level. I wanted to thank you all for practicing all of these. If you have any experience with clairtangency, I would love to hear your perceptions and maybe even your comments down below. Let me know how these exercises are going. And next week, we're going to be talking about the Claircognizance, or the ability of clear knowing. If you've ever just had a truth or a fact or a thought just plop down into your head, that is the ability of claircognizance. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell notification so that you can know whenever my videos come out on every Thursday, because I try to release them each at the same time, but sometimes Mercury retrograde has its own little say and it comes out whenever it needs to come out. So I want you to be aware of whenever I've released a new video. And don't forget, as you raise your vibe, you heal the tribe. Blessings, everyone.